Okay, what's going on? Welcome to my beginner's tutorial on making the switch over to the fight stick. Now what you're looking at right here, I'm sure you've seen many of these before, is a tournament edition, the Mad Catz Tournament Edition fight stick. Now this video is really geared towards people who have a fight stick, never used it because they had troubles with it and they kept going back to their pad, or people who are interested in buying a fight stick and they want to know what it takes to kind of get used to it, or just anybody who's just afraid, or they don't want to spend the money on it and they're not really sure if it's really right for them. Now I can't really answer any of those questions for you, but what I can tell you is I used to be a pad player when Street Fighter 4 first came out, and there was just too many things that the pad was holding me back on. Now of course we know it really depends, it's very character dependent on which, whether or not it's either worth it for you to go to fight stick. If you've been playing Street Fighter for the past 3 years, like you have people like Wolfkrone, if you're familiar with, he's a really good Viper player. He has a pad, he plays on a PlayStation 2 pad, at least it looks, or a PlayStation 3 pad, and he does really well on it, and he actually can use a fight stick, but he's not as good, or at least there's certain things that he still has to work on in order to make the fight stick his tournament, his tournament deal, basically, where, if you're going to see him at a serious tournament, he's probably going to have his pad because that's where most of his experience is, and he's managed to make it work for him. Now that doesn't mean I'm telling you to go out and learn Viper on a pad, because I think besides him, that's a very difficult thing to do. But when I first started, like I said, I didn't have a fight stick, and the only characters I could play, I could use like Ryu and such, but I started off using charge characters for a little bit, and it was a little bit easier for me, but there were just certain things that did not work as well. And the biggest problem with me in pads is you don't have complete control over your inputs. Now if you're using the analog stick on your pad instead of the digital pad, you do gain some of that back, but at the same time, depending on how your button layout is, you might be finding yourself not being able to do combos that you think would be better for you just because of the way your button layout is. So the biggest appeal for me to use a fight stick is the fact that I can pretty much have any input that I want at any time, and I don't have to worry about whether or not my Dragon Punch is going to come out correctly, or I'm going to get a super instead of something. And if I do, it's going to be because of my own input that that I'm putting into the fight stick, as opposed to just using my thumb, and trying to get inputs out. So basically, with a fight stick, you're going to be able to do any combo that you want, as long as you practice and know how to do it, of course. And let me just make this a little bit smaller, because it is covering most of the fight stick here. Okay, so first off, I'm also going to change the order of things. Nope, I know what I'll do. Let's do this. Okay, so as you can tell, I have a Mad Catz fight stick, Tournament Edition. The standard editions look the same except they're smaller, but you get the same button layout. Generally, most of the fight sticks that you buy are Japanese style. It's really hard to find an American style fight stick that works with Street Fighter, meaning having at least the 6 buttons, because they didn't really make that many of them. I own a Mortal Kombat American style stick, and they're really rare and they're really hard to find. But you can find these, at least a version of the Japanese fight stick, online pretty cheap. And without going into detail, because I've done reviews on fight sticks before, if you're just learning, it really doesn't matter what you're using as long as it basically functions correctly and has the buttons that you need. And like I said, it's really, all the moves that I could do on this fight stick here that I paid $130 for, I could do on my $20 fight stick that I also own that works on a computer. So as much as I would like to say go out and buy the fanciest fight stick, if you're a little broke, you might feel like you want to try something a little cheaper, for $30-40. Just make sure it's not some complete crap that's like, like this big or something and it's all weird. Try to get something that's just pretty solid and that could take a little bit of abuse. Any of the Hori products, even the cheaper Hori products, they're good. They're pretty good. I mean, price-wise anyway. But generally, like I said, what you're going to get is you're going to get either a 6 or 8 button layout. Most of them are 8 button layout. You're going to get a ball top, which is a round lollipop style fight stick, and you're going to have some sort of curved variation and a straight variation like this, and a square gate. And without going into too much detail, my personal opinion about square gate, you're going to hear octagon gate or octo gate or round gate, circular, is it really depends on the person. And if you're just starting out, none of this should mean anything to you, and it shouldn't affect what you buy. If somebody says, oh man, round gate's the way to go, square is crap, well, it's their personal opinion, and you have to understand that everybody plays different characters. People have different backgrounds. I know I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and I never saw a square gate until late 90s into the 2000s. I never even knew there was such thing as a lollipop style, and just didn't see it because I live in America.